It's no exaggeration to call Wynton Marsalis American musical royalty. As an internationally acclaimed musician, composer, band leader, and educator, and a leading advocate of American culture, he has created and performed an expansive range of music, from quartets to big bands, chamber music ensembles to symphony orchestras, and tap bands to ballet. He is always expanding the vocabulary for jazz and classical music with a vital body of work that places him among the world's finest musicians and composers. Mr. Marcellus, good morning. It is great to be here with you this morning.
All
Before I
right.
ask my first question, I just wanted to give the listeners a bit of background about your work of Fiddler's Tale, and please jump in at any time. So Marcellus is your A Fiddler's Tale was a joint commission by the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center and Jazz at Lincoln Center, and specifically to create a contemporary update to Stravinsky's A Soldier's Tale, with the intent. I guess your intent was to reshape the content, but not the form of the tale. And you kept the same instrumentation as Stravinsky, that you kept the same instrumentation that Stravinsky had established, as well as similar sequencing and many of the same titles for the sections. And your friend, the writer Stanley Crouch, created a uniquely American interpretation of the traditional European moral parable. The story is set in the home of the blues, the Mississippi Delta, and casts Faust as a young female fiddler, Beatrice Connors, and the devil as the record producer, Bubba Z. Bills, otherwise known as BZB. So my first question really for you is, why was the decision made to write for a Beatrice instead of for a Peter, so to speak?
The hero is almost always a woman. I wrote Blood on the Fields. The hero was the lady, sung by Cassandra Wilson. All Rise, a big piece that I wrote. The song All Rise was sung by a woman. The Plantation Penitentiary, Jennifer Sandon sang those words. The Ever Funky Lowdown, the singing is all women who sing the tale of it. And it's just a part of the tradition of what I've done, going back to the early 1990s, even the 80s when and Stanley and I talked about that. We talked really every day for 30 years. So
Wonderful. Um, now, so I'm now so in the story, the young fiddler, she's caught between her pursuit of a uniquely personal. She's caught, I guess you could say, in between her pursuit of a uniquely personal music and the desire to be successful.
right.
And she's lured by the BZB away from her own soulful approach to song into the recording of formulaic popular tunes, which offer commercial success. And throughout the story, she struggles with self-doubt and addictions in her effort to sustain her individual creativity while dancing, I guess you could say, dancing to the devil's tune. He's kind of her puppet master. At a point in Fiddler's Tale, the BZB infers that music is being lost, or people sometimes play music or become musicians for the wrong reasons.
Well, yeah, that was the whole point of it. Was you have something you're trying to say, and the message is much easier to deliver if it's what people want to hear. But sometimes the message is what you or I or what we may need to hear is very different from what we want to hear.
Hmm.
So in the music industry, obviously in our country, I mean, at this point, it's people by a lot of non-musicians. So to speak of it disparagingly is a waste of time. Like it's my
Yes, of course.
I'm not gonna talk to a non-musician disparagingly about any music they make. It's good that they make any kind of music. But yeah, selling out, of course, the popular taste is something that's in every field. It's not just music it carries it more successfully than other things because it's so abstract. It can be argued about and talked about. It's much more difficult to be acute about music. And as you see what has gone on in the last decades around music, at this point, it's not even to argue it is a waste of time. Like I don't even to argue it means that's like talking about anything that's not worth talking about. Like it's like
Understood.
I went to the bathroom on the dinner table at your house during dinner, and you start to discuss, hey, what do you think he was doing? I mean, I know some things go to such a degree, there's nothing all you can do is just. So that's what he
Un-
was talking about. Yeah, I knew him. It was very deliberate. We talked about all these themes. We talked about Faust. We talked about what it means to sell your soul to the devil. We talked about choices that were in front of us as a musician, writers, as artists. We talked about all kinds of stuff, man. You can imagine with the piece. And one section of it I wrote in the beginning introduction of the band, where it talks about the drummer and the bass player. And the drum player has all the characteristics of musicians.
Yes.
I gave him that in the beginning, and then he wrote. And Stanley could write so much. He was such a brilliant person. And at the end, he wrote it. He just told me to edit it. He said, "Man, I don't have time to edit this. Cut it down and just send it to me how you want it to." And we're really close, man. Real close.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was of course a very um, sad news to hear about his death. And yeah, the world, of course, knew Stanley Crouch. But how do yeah, since you were so close to him and you collaborated with him on this particular piece, yes, and it's such a masterful sort of work for chamber music. Um, uh, how do you think he would want to be remembered, Stanley Couch, now that he's gone?
Well, I think he would like his work to speak for him.
Hmm.
He's a very complex personality, but Stanley was a genius in terms of just his ability to make connections and how much he knew. Not just knew from books and from reading, but his experience was vast. He was from the hood, and he understood about that too. And he was man, he was such a brilliant man. And he was funny too. I mean, most of the times we were laughing about stuff. He was funny, and he wasn't above pugilism. And he had his moments, where he acted beneath himself, as we all do.
Yeah, of
But
course.
but when it comes to discussing him, sometimes those things become the tale. But his work should speak for itself. His books, Considering Genius, Notes of the Hanging Judge. His books should. It's his pieces like Blues to Be Constitutional. Read him, and you'll learn what you need to learn about Stanley. Don't the Moon Look Lonesome? Check him out. Check out what he was writing.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're giving our listeners the titles to many of his books. I've read a couple of them, and I think that they should be uh, required reading for all musicians,
Right.
actually. And yeah, so I would encourage our listeners to go check out some of Stanley Crouch's books, and you'll be able to find links for some of the titles. All you'll look below the video when we post it in October. Um, so
Considering Genius. Let me just say that Considering Genius is a good one to start with. That's a good, because it's a compilation of essays. That's a good book to check out. And of course, his last book was a book on Charlie Parker,
mhm.
Kansas City Lightning. Just check. It's worth investigating, because you can see the depth of Stanley's mind and the different connections he would make, and also the artistic quality of his writing, his poetry, and his aesthetic sensibility. And it's his quality.
Now that the world is absent of Stanley Crouch, are there other people that are carrying on his torch or fulfilling his role in the world? And what do you think the world is void of now that he's gone?
No, they're brilliant. They, of course, are brilliant writers, and they are brilliant intellectuals. Like in terms of just intellectual depth and power, Eddie Glaude is an example of someone just brilliant as a person. And in terms of Stanley as a jazz writer and a person who dealt with American aesthetics, coming from the line of Ellison and Murray, no, there's no one like him. There's no one trying to be like him, really. It's no.
Yes, it's like a moment of history, and you had to be there to experience it in some
To
ways, and
him, yeah,
you
he
can
was one of a
understand.
kind. Man, he was one of a
Yeah,
kind. I can't tell you how much I loved him. Just he was, man, he really would make you, just how funny the stuff he would say was. Me and him, I mean, we spent so much time laughing, man. We just go on and on and on. And he just, man, did you read so and so? Or did you check out so and so? This person's in the hospital. Man, I was checking out. He checked out stuff constantly, man. It could be from anything from Caravaggio to the photographs of Frederick Douglass to did you see Matisse Picasso came into town? Do you know that different musicians would be in the hospital? I'm trying to think of who we went and saw. One musician. He just was, man, let's go see someone. So he was just he was one of a kind, man. Or then they'd be like laughing about something that happened when he was growing up, or fights we had, something people did, or something about hair grease, or something about the first time you smelled chitlins, or the first time you did out an ass whipping, or you got yours whipped. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
no, I know what you mean.
It's
first time you smelled chitlins. No, I know. Yeah, no, I
first time you handed out a
what you mean.
behind whipping. What the high school dance was like. The first girl broke your heart. The dudes tried to shake you down in your neighborhood. It would go on and on, man. You know what it smelled like in somebody's house, and what you take your pick, man. The church, we could go into sermonizing and everything, man. I mean, yeah, I miss him. When we started arguing at the end, so we kind of fell out right near the end, maybe 3 years before he had gotten some strokes, and it changed him. But we started to argue about politics, but we still were close, man.
I know that the musicians hope that you will like how they've represented the work and things like this and how they've interpreted it. And so it's going to be, we're really looking forward to premiering this video. And it was something that sort of like gave like people to work. I mean, it gave people definitely a project to work on during the pandemic when not so much was going on. So
Right.
we were really glad to work on it.
You know, I know I'm gonna love it, man. Damian Sneed is the maestro. That's like my family member. You know, we all close, man. Like Stanley and I were family. Damian is like family.
Yeah.
So I know I'm gonna love it. I mean, it's not. But Damian and I get together on Sundays. We listen to all kinds of music. We listen to his music. We talk about his scores. And, you know, we're close, man. I've been knowing him since he was in high school.
So you are approaching a big milestone birthday, and this video of A Fiddler's Tale will be released actually a few days before your birthday. And you know, birthdays are often a time of reflection. And I'm curious, how do you yourself want to be remembered?
Man, I don't really. I don't think about that kind of stuff because I mean, but people who knew me, like I'm remembering Stanley, you know.
Yeah.
Was written about him by people who didn't know him or who have a point of view of trying to kind of way they want to make the culture be a certain way. Time erases all of that. I'm glad that for the people I knew, I'll be remembered different ways by different people, and I'm fine with that. I don't. You can't impose anything on that after you did. That's it. You can't, and you also can't try to make yourself be remembered anyway when you're alive. Like it's not that way.
No, that's true. It's not really up to us. It's like the world goes to its own beat.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. But that's also that's just what it is, for good or for bad. You know, it's like that's why it's important for us to always look forward, be in the present moment, but look ahead and behind at the same time. And that's hard because our eyes lead us forward. Our eyes lead us forward. So we need to use other things to give us that 360-degree perspective.
No, that's true. History is, and I think history sort of gives us that backwards perspective about how to go forward in the best way. So,
yeah.
Great. Well, Mr. Marcellus, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule of touring and composing and all of this. It's really a pleasure to meet you in person, and I hope sometime in the future we get to meet in person.
Well, I'm sure we will, man. Thank you, Kadeem. Thank you for taking your time, rapping with me, and it's made me feel good just to talk about Stanley, man. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. Y'all take care.